Embark on a riveting journey as we delve into the gripping narrative of how corrupt cops cost their town $325,000. In this exposé on the actions of corrupt law enforcement, we unravel a tale that not only shook a community, but also carried consequences echoing far beyond the precinct. Stay tuned as we navigate through the intricate details of this alarming incident, shedding light on the aftermath and the pursuit of justice. If you value accurate information, subscribe to our channel. Share this video to spread awareness, hit the like button to champion transparency, and stand with us in addressing this issue for a more resilient and united community. On May 25, 2018, 20-year-old Emily Weinman from Philadelphia was at the beach in Wildwood, New Jersey, with a friend. Officers Thomas Cannon and Robert Jordan, who were hired by the Wildwood Police Department for the summer as temporary law enforcement officers, approached them. These officers, who were also college students earning credits, asked about unopened bottles of alcoholic twisted teas near Emily and her friend.
They're your parents?
My aunt.
Oh, your aunt's? Where's your aunt at?
On her way. She left, she's coming back.
Left, she's coming back? Cool. Do me a favor. Take a deep breath and blow into that, all right? All right, do me a favor. Try one more time. Deep breath. Don't go so far in.
Is there a staring problem? Mind your business.
563, we're 10-8.
All right, where's your aunt at? You have her phone number?
Where?
How old are you?
I know that didn't come up positive. I didn't take a drink of anything, so.
All right, yo guys, even if it's your aunt, she is of age.
Is she of age?
Yeah, how old is she? Like 40?
No, it's Man, this is moving.
All right, go grab her real quick. We're gonna have them pour that all out.
How are you gonna let us go if we didn't even drink alcohol?
Well, where's your aunt at?
You're allowed to carry. You're allowed to carry alcohol.
That's interesting.
You're underage. You are. You're not allowed to drink it, and we did not
Open
drink
display on the beach.
it. What?
It's possession consumption.
It's not open.
Open display means
What do you mean? That doesn't
you can
mean
see
anything.
it, yes.
Okay, you can see it, and we're not drinking.
5043. Come here with Ellis Kellinger in the beach.
Officers informed Ms. Weinman that according to New Jersey law, specifically Section 2C 3315, it is illegal for minors to have or consume alcohol in public places. Furthermore, Wildwood Municipal Code, Section 41.2 prohibits the open display or consumption of alcoholic beverages on the beach, boardwalk, or boardwalk approaches during certain months. While there may be a legal argument that Ms. Weinman did not physically possess the alcoholic beverages, the concept of constructive possession, which involves knowledge and the ability to control, may still be applicable. If she can prove that the twisted teas belonged to her aunt and that she had no control over them, she could argue against being in possession of any alcoholic beverages. However, considering the open display of the drinks against local regulations, the court might determine that the officers had reasonable suspicion to detain her for investigating underage possession.
You want the water over there?
Yeah, you're not cooperating. Yeah.
Your aunt didn't disrespect you. I didn't do anything to get written up, did I?
Calls it a scene.
Now you're causing a scene. You want to? All right. I'll give you one more chance to give me your last name.
Just be
You're not gonna lock me up.
Okay.
You can't lock me up. I didn't disrespect you.
Okay.
And you don't need to write my name down either because I didn't disrespect you. I didn't do anything to you. You're mad because we thought we were drinking.
I'll give you one.
Because your brother left me.
Okay. First of all,
You thought you
you're
were
in
gonna
possession.
come over here.
Where's your aunt at then?
She's on her way.
Okay, what's your last
You could
name?
wait here. That's like you wasted your time coming over here. You could wait here for her.
Okay, what's your last name?
You don't need my last name.
The officers requested Ms. Weinman's surname and issued a threat of arrest for obstruction if she did not comply. Despite this, she refused, maintaining that she had not violated any laws. While New Jersey lacks a stop and identify law, Section 2C 33-15 of the statutes deals with underage alcohol possession, subjecting offenders to penalties such as a written warning detailing the person's information and the circumstances of the violation. It is likely that the officers sought her identity for this purpose or to check her record for prior offenses, though her refusal alone likely wouldn't constitute obstruction as per Section 2C29(1). This section specifies that obstruction requires physical interference or actions outlined in the statute. Refusing to provide information, as clarified in State v. Camillo, doesn't qualify as obstruction unless it involves physical interference. Therefore, it's highly improbable that Ms. Weinman could be convicted of obstruction merely for withholding her name.
Do you have cuffs on you?
Yo, man!
Get over here.
Don't talk to me!
Yo.
Don't touch me!
All right, you're about to get dropped.
Yo, don't touch me! Man! Don't!
Get over here.
What are you doing? Don't!
After a brief chase, Ms. Weinman sprinted across the beach before abruptly turning back and pushing the officer. Consequently, she was forcefully thrown to the ground. In a moment, Ms. Weinman fiercely resisted the officers, simultaneously calling out to her friends. Nearby, amidst the struggle, one of the officers resorted to repeatedly striking Ms. Weinman in the head before eventually gaining control to restrain her.
Oh my God! I didn't do anything wrong! I wasn't drinking anything! Just smell it!
It wasn't even open, bro.
You shook me off! I can't believe you did that! Get off of me! Ah!
One in custody.
Don't stare unless you're gonna help! You need to get the you white piece of trash! Ew! Oh yeah, now we got these young cops who don't know how to treat people! I'm gonna talk captain as if he will get too.
Good, I hope you do.
Yeah, will! Dirtball! No! Who are you?
Y'all all running cops.
You're out before you get locked up too. Right? What? No, tell me why you put it on the ground. Bro, she didn't even open the can.
Listen to me. Listen to
Nothing
me.
was open. No,
Now's not the time to argue this, okay? Number one, you got a baby in your hand. So you take my baby. I got a baby in the worry about her, not your girlfriend. You get that straightened out later.
In this situation, the boyfriend expressed disapproval of the police officers for using force against Ms. Weinman during a confrontation. The legal context is based on a Supreme Court decision from 1989, Graham v. Connor, which allows officers to use reasonable force during arrests or detentions. Law enforcement agencies typically follow a use of force continuum, providing guidelines for officers to escalate actions based on the circumstances. For example, a closed fist punch is considered a constitutional use of force for restraining a citizen. The complexity arises when determining if the punch constituted excessive force. Precedents such as Husbands v. City of New York 2009 and Martinez v. Snyder 2013 offer different interpretations, with one case accepting a single punch during an arrest and another considering punching leading to a fracture as excessive. The decision on whether the punch was excessive force depends on the judgment and interpretation of judges or juries. Given the nuances and varied legal precedents, the outcome of Ms. Weinman's case could swing in either direction.
Just punched her in her face, though.
Yeah, well, she tried kicking us, so that's it.
She didn't kick her.
Yeah, she did.
The piece just recorded it.
I go to... Yeah, it's fine. I go to stop her for LO, for underage drinking. She said she's 20. She had twisted tees. She wouldn't give me her last name. So I said, hey, if you're not going to give me your information, you're going to be locked up. She tried walking away from me. When she tried walking away from me, I tried grabbing her. She tried kicking at us, so we slammed her on the ground. She kicked him, and then I hit her a couple times, and then I put her in cuffs.
Ms. Weinman encountered legal trouble in Wildwood, facing charges such as disorderly conduct and resisting arrest. A bystander captured the incident on film, and it gained traction on social media, causing widespread upset about the conduct of the police officers. Additional charges were filed, but she eventually pleaded guilty to disorderly conduct. The county prosecutor did not find sufficient evidence to charge the officers, but Ms. Weinman sued them and the city, resulting in a $325,000 settlement. The officers faced criticism for their handling of the situation. Despite questioning Ms. Weinman's behavior, the force used by the officers was deemed excessive. The lesson from this incident is for individuals to remain calm, follow orders, and assert their right to remain silent when necessary. Join us in spreading awareness about corruption in the police force through the video, How Corrupt Cops Cost Their Town $325,000. Subscribe, like, and share the video to collectively support justice and create a fairer society. Your actions can make a positive impact. Be part of our collective voice. On June 10, 2006, Officer Jeffrey Pello found himself summoned for an interview by his department in Bloomington, Illinois. Little did he know that his extensive years of service on the force would offer no protection once he was discovered engaging in misconduct. Caught red-handed, he faced the consequences, ultimately receiving the longest sentence in Illinois history. His past years of service could not shield him from the impending legal ramifications. Jeffrey had been a part of the Bloomington Police Department for 17 years. Although he was familiar with the proper procedures, he simply wished to be exempted from adhering to them. As the red hue of anger painted his demeanor, his repressed frustration kept unraveling. He unconsciously tapped his fingers, his shoulders tensing, and his gaze fixated on the floor. Every aspect of his body language conveyed an intense desire to simply walk out the door. Earlier on this particular morning, Jeffrey was discovered in a residential neighborhood, navigating between two houses. His explanation: he claimed to be house hunting for his mother-in-law. However, the problem was twofold. None of the houses in that neighborhood were for sale, and it was 12:30 in the morning. The individual hyper fixates on a seemingly insignificant detail, the drainage pipe into the retention pond, as if it absolves him of any guilt. However, by doing so, he inadvertently reveals that he was aware of it. Despite the cover of darkness, he exhibits a deep familiarity with the area. Most suspects believe that the more elaborate the lie, the more convincing it is to anyone listening. However, Jeffrey's defensiveness and failure to consider his words undermine his credibility. His attempt to deflect responsibility only confirms his knowledge of a separate set of events, all without the interrogating officer prompting him. The situation becomes even more intriguing when the police rush to the scene, only to find Jeffrey as the sole person present. When asked about his presence between the two houses, Jeffrey tries to assert his authority based on seniority, attempting to overshadow the reality of the situation. The interrogating officer, however, insists on sticking to the facts. The exchange highlights a recurring theme in the interrogation, where Jeffrey presents one version of reality, and the officer skillfully unravels his lies by focusing on key details. As the interrogation progresses, Jeffrey's attempts to maintain his version of the truth clash with the officer's adept questioning. The officer encourages Jeffrey to reflect on the information he is providing and emphasizes the importance of considering the implications of his statements. Despite Jeffrey's insistence on telling the truth, the officer skillfully exposes the inconsistencies in his narrative. It becomes evident that some lies are inescapable, leading to an intriguing and complex interrogation process. At 29 years old, Janelle Galuska was abruptly awakened by the persistent barking of her dog at the front door, accompanied by urgent knocks that echoed through her home. Despite the frantic and empathetic instincts that urged her to respond, she hesitated, choosing instead to prioritize her safety. The relentless knocking continued, but she made a calculated decision to call the police, believing that they were the appropriate authorities to handle the situation. With trepidation, Janelle stayed on the line with the emergency services, anxiously awaiting help. The urgent knocks persisted for a seemingly endless 10 minutes, during which the nearest responding officer conducted a thorough scan of the area. The atmosphere was tense, and the unfolding events hinted at an underlying mystery or danger that had yet to reveal itself. But Janelle had a legitimate reason to feel fear. Over the past few years, a series of home invasions in Bloomington specifically targeted women fitting her demographic profile: young, single, and often alone. The first attack struck around Christmas in 2002 when she was barely an adult. The trauma inflicted upon her during that incident led her down a path of addiction. By April of the following year, she still struggled with sleep, haunted by the memories of the initial assault. the ripple effect of these crimes persisted. Another victim from the January 2005 incidents found it challenging to discuss her attack, unable to repeat the horrifying things said to her. Tragically, the second woman lost her unborn child as a result of the ordeal. In these cases, the women would often instinctively rush toward the frantic knocking on their doors, unaware that they were inadvertently running toward danger. At other times, the invader was already inside. Regardless, one chilling detail remained consistent in the victims' memories: the piercing blue eyes staring at them from behind the mask. The constant fear and the realization that the perpetrator had been meticulously watching them, possessing intimate knowledge of their lives, added an extra layer of horror. This included details such as addresses of their loved ones, workplaces, and daily schedules, minute to minute, hour to hour, day to day. Top of form. After threatening every aspect of their lives, he would tie them up, place a pillowcase over their heads, and subject them to up to 3 hours of torture. Following the brutal ordeal, he would run them a bath, ensuring they washed away any potential evidence. The assailant's departure only occurred after he was certain they had cleaned themselves. However, the disturbing fact that the attackers seemingly possessed extensive knowledge about their victims couldn't be dismissed. The unsettling idea that the suspect might have had connections to law enforcement emerged more recently. Jeffrey's animated reactions were only serving to dig his grave deeper. The more he pushed, the more the interrogator pushed back. Every response came coiled from a defensive posture. He automatically assumed guilt rather than questioning who else might have been harassing her. When confronted to think outside of himself, his responses drove the interrogator to realize that there was no end to this. The response suggested that he frequently sneaked out when she was asleep, which isn't typical behavior for a dedicated father of 3. He was described as an exceptional family man. He attended all of their sporting events, expressed his love for them daily, volunteered at their schools, participated in uniform on career day, coached his oldest daughter's soccer team, and consistently exceeded the expected standards of a father. His oldest daughter was 19 years old, just a few years younger than the youngest victim. Another victim, Christy Mills, was only 25 when she was attacked in 2003. Sarah Calms Gleege, victim number 4, was 28 and just 6 weeks away from her wedding. The potential victim number 5, Janelle Galuska, was only 29. All these targets were young adults, as they were considered easier prey, more likely to crumble under pressure, and often too ashamed to speak of it. Exaggerated responses only confirmed suspicions. As all the victims previously explained, he took great care to leave no DNA evidence behind. He even ensured to take the sheets with him on his way out. However, the department knew he wouldn't make it easy. A detachment was currently searching his home for any incriminating proof, as well as his car and work computer. Initially, sifting through the cracks in his life revealed nothing. He was meticulous, keeping that part of his life at a distance. His home and office were filled only with family memorabilia, creating an exaggerated picture of domestic bliss. However, investigators eventually stumbled upon something in his closet that would shatter this illusion once and for all: a jacket, a pair of gloves, and a ski mask. This is where the situation goes beyond acceptable limits. The duffel bag was troubling enough, but the initial piece of incriminating evidence surfaced from his work computer. He abused his authority to intrude into the lives of his victims, researching their license plate information, social security details, employment history, and more. His claim that he knew everything about them wasn't an exaggeration. When the victims participated in a lineup to identify him, even though they couldn't recall his face, they could never forget his piercing blue eyes. Jonelle, however, recognized him immediately, as he had taken her statement the first time someone had stalked outside her window. As each woman provided her account, his depravity became more evident. He wasn't merely committing the acts. He derived pleasure from knowing that the assaults tainted the victim's image in the eyes of their loved ones. Witnessing their shock and disbelief brought him a particularly twisted joy. This wasn't a random impulse, it was a methodical malevolence. The duffel bag proved even more crucial in the end. The duct tape collected from the victims stored fibers from the attacker's clothing, matching perfectly with the jacket, gloves, and ski mask. This forensic evidence, seemingly small and insignificant, slipped through Jeffrey's scrutiny, emphasizing that big things have small beginnings. Jeffrey wasn't immediately imprisoned. He spent 2 years behind bars on a $200,000 bond before facing a jury. Charged with 35 counts across the 4 women, his perversity became increasingly clear as each victim spoke. It wasn't just about the act itself. It was a calculated malevolence. On August 12, 2008, despite his and his family's claims of innocence, he received a guilty verdict on all 35 counts and was sentenced to a total of 440 years, with no possibility of parole. He may not have physically taken someone's life, but Jeffrey Pillow inflicted irreparable damage on many. Handed the harshest punishment in Illinois history, his egregious disregard for his oath to protect and serve marked him as the worst kind of criminal, one who lurks in plain sight. As a consequence, he will spend the remainder of his life regretting every ill-conceived thought within the confines of an 8 by 10-foot cell. In conclusion, the harrowing case of Jeffrey Pillow serves as a stark reminder of the dark potential that can reside within those entrusted to protect and serve. His heinous actions shattered lives and betrayed the very oath he swore to uphold. The severity of his punishment, the harshest in the history of Illinois, reflects the gravity of his offenses. This case underscores the importance of vigilance and accountability within law enforcement, as well as the crucial role that communities play in remaining aware and engaged. It is a testament to the dedication of those who tirelessly investigate such crimes and bring the perpetrators to justice. As we continue to explore unfolding cases and delve into the depths of human behavior, we appreciate your support and engagement. If you find value in our efforts, we encourage you to like, subscribe, and join our growing community on social media. Together, we can shed light on these dark corners and work towards a safer, more just society. Thank you for your time and attention. Until our next investigation, stay vigilant.
Policing in the United States has garnered significant attention in recent years, with numerous instances of law enforcement encounters being recorded and shared widely on social media. These encounters have led to discussions about the balance between an individual's rights and law enforcement's authority. In this context, we will delve into some of the real-life cases, shedding light on encounters between citizens and police officers. Each case highlights distinct scenarios ranging from traffic stops to confrontations over the exercise of constitutional rights. Analyzing these cases can help us better understand the complexities and challenges in interactions between citizens and law enforcement officers. In this unsettling case, a police officer pulled over a man for a seemingly routine seatbelt violation. However, the situation escalated rapidly as the officer drew his firearm and pointed it at the driver. The officer shouted at the man, creating a tense and fear-filled atmosphere. Fearing for his life, the driver complied with the officer's orders, immediately getting on his knees and placing his hands on his head. Throughout the encounter, the driver attempted to explain his actions, mentioning that he was searching for a safe place to pull over and even revealing that he worked as a counselor. Nevertheless, the officer remained steadfast in his approach, handcuffing the driver and initiating a search of his person. The driver was repeatedly asked about the reasons for not stopping immediately, as the officer read him his Miranda rights. Eventually, the officer allowed the driver to retrieve his identification from the vehicle. After a search of the car yielded no contraband, the officer issued a citation for the seatbelt violation. The driver expressed his frustration and mentioned his previous discussions with high-ranking officers regarding similar situations. In another event, this case involved a man who was riding a motorized bicycle and was stopped by a police officer. The officer initiated a conversation and requested the man's identification. However, the man asserted his rights, explaining that he was not obligated to provide his ID as he had not committed any crime. The officer contended that the man couldn't legally ride the motorized bicycle on the road. The man strongly disagreed, citing a specific law that allowed him to do so. He also noted that he was an activist who filmed police officers and conducted First Amendment audits. The officer's frustration with the situation grew leading to repeated requests for the man's identification. However, the man refused to hand over his ID without a valid reason, consistently referring to his understanding of the law. The situation began to escalate, with the man requesting the presence of a supervisor or watch commander. Eventually, a sheriff arrived at the scene and engaged in a conversation with the man. Despite the continued disagreement, the man stood his ground, refusing to surrender his identification without a legitimate justification. After discussions with other officers, the decision was made to issue the man a written warning. In another event, case revolves around a young man who was walking while recording a video, a common and legal activity in the modern era. An officer approached the man and initiated a series of questions. The man, aware of his rights, explained that he was not legally obligated to provide identification. He questioned the officer's claim that they had received a call about his filming, which was deemed suspicious. The man asserted that suspicion in itself is not a crime and questioned the legality of filming in public spaces. As the conversation grew more heated, the first officer warned the man about creating problems. However, the man remained steadfast, continuing to resist providing his ID. Tensions escalated, leading to the first officer deciding to handcuff the man. The man responded by stating that he would take legal action if the officers physically touched him. Ultimately, the officers informed the man that they would issue a written warning, bringing the encounter to a conclusion. In another troubling incident in a quiet residential neighborhood, a young African-American man, James, was driving home after completing a late-night shift at his workplace. As he approached a stop sign, he noticed the flashing lights of a police car behind him. The officer claimed that James had a broken tail light as the reason for the stop. However, James was convinced that he had been targeted solely because of his race. This suspicion was not unfounded, as he had experienced similar stops in the past. As the police officer approached his vehicle, he had his hand resting on his holstered firearm, which immediately escalated James' anxiety. The officer sternly demanded James' identification and vehicle registration. Fearing for his safety and well aware of the alarming statistics related to racial profiling and encounters between young black men and the police, James reluctantly handed over his documents. The officer radioed for backup, creating a sense of intimidation and unease as more squad cars arrived at the scene. Despite the unsettling experience, the backup officers did not intervene or question the primary officer's actions. The encounter remained tense and hostile as James was kept waiting, his heart racing, and his mind filled with fear. Eventually, the primary officer returned with James' identification and informed him that he would be let off with a warning regarding the broken taillight. While James was relieved that the situation had not escalated further, he was left deeply traumatized by the encounter, prompting him to further question the fairness and equity within law enforcement. In a quiet suburban neighborhood, a family was experiencing an excruciatingly difficult situation. Their adult son, Michael, was in the midst of a severe mental health crisis. He had barricaded himself in his bedroom and was threatening to harm himself with a small kitchen knife. Fearing for their son's life and desperate for help, the family dialed 911, hoping that the responding officers would assist in getting their son the mental health support he desperately needed. When the police arrived at the scene, they encountered a harrowing scene. Michael was inside his room, screaming incoherently and waving the small knife, but he made no direct threats toward anyone but himself. In the hallway, his family was pleading for the police to allow them to try to talk Michael down and provide the help he needed. Instead of following established crisis intervention protocols or seeking to de-escalate the situation, the responding officers drew their firearms and demanded that Michael drop the knife. The young man, lost in his mental health crisis, did not immediately comply, and further intensifying the officers' unease. In response, they fired multiple shots, seriously injuring Michael. The family's pleas for an ambulance and mental health crisis intervention were initially ignored in favor of addressing the situation with force. After Michael was taken to the hospital for medical treatment, the family was left traumatized by the use of lethal force in what should have been a mental health crisis intervention. The incident raised significant concerns about the training and preparedness of law enforcement officers to respond to individuals experiencing mental health crises and highlighted the pressing need for reforms in this area. It also emphasized the importance of shifting the focus from using force to providing appropriate mental health care and support in such situations. In these encounters, we witnessed the clash between individual rights and law enforcement's responsibilities. The drivers and pedestrians involved in these cases each asserted their rights to varying degrees. They believed they were within their legal boundaries and, in some instances, expressed their concerns about their safety and the nature of police stops. Meanwhile, the officers faced the challenging task of ensuring public safety, investigating potential violations, and maintaining control in uncertain situations. Additionally, these cases raised questions about the use of force and escalation during encounters. In the first case, the officer's decision to draw a firearm during a traffic stop for a seatbelt violation is highly controversial and underscores the need for de-escalation training and community policing strategies. In the second case, the confrontation over the legality of riding a motorized bicycle on the road demonstrates the need for clear and consistent communication between law enforcement officers and the public. Such cases can be mitigated through improved understanding of local laws, especially as they pertain to unique transportation methods like motorized bicycles. In the third case, the debate over the legality of filming in public spaces and the subsequent use of handcuffs raises questions about the boundaries of First Amendment rights. Citizens' ability to document police activities in public is a contentious issue, as it touches upon the rights of free speech and the press. It also underscores the importance of police officers being aware of the rights of citizens and exercising their authority judiciously. The diverse nature of these cases serves as a reminder that police-citizen encounters are multifaceted. They require a delicate balance between individual rights, law enforcement duties, and the need to de-escalate situations to ensure safety. Moreover, these cases illustrate how the actions and decisions made during these interactions can significantly impact the individuals involved and the perception of law enforcement in the community.